Hello, this is James Robert Deal. Today is January the 14th, 2018. This is the JRD News program, NEWZ. Today we're going to talk about so-called smart meters, so-called advanced meters, broadcasting, non-broadcasting, GE meters. Enjoy the song I've written. It's called Do Unto Others as you would have them do unto you. Lasts about 4 more minutes. And then we'll begin. So go get a cup of coffee.
Unto others as you would have them do unto you. Hey, Mr. Rich Guy, I'm talking to you. Hey, big company, I'm talking to you. Hey, big government, I'm talking to you too. Do unto others applies to all. Hey, Monsanto, where's your code? Your code of ethics, you should have one. Hey, you fraudulent seller of carcinogenic Roundup, Monsanto, where's your code? Profits must be goal number 2 after doing something good for the world. Hey, ExxonMobil, look up, not down, to solar and wind and wave. Stop drilling now, the future is green. Be a big green energy company. Hey, ExxonMobil, stop your fracking ways. Your methane is even worse than your CO2. Quit poisoning the water, quit poisoning the air. Be a big green energy company. Hey, Shell Oil, how much did you spend? $8 billion in the Chuck E. Cheese scene. You left, you said there was no oil, but really there's a lot. It was Mother Nature's storms that drove you off. $8 billion would build enough solar power to permanently power 230,000 homes. Polluting the world is not only morally wrong, long term it makes absolutely no financial sense. You can make a tiny profit without fracking up the world. Do unto others applies to all. Hey, cattle rancher, take your beeves off the public land. Give the buffalo and the wolf a place to roam. Profits must be goal number 2 after doing something good for the world. And do unto others applies for our descendants, our duty to those billions yet unborn. Our sons and our daughters for the next 10,000 years. Do unto others applies for all. And do unto our Mother Earth as you would have as you would have her be a home for your children.
This is James Robert Deal, and today is January the 14th, 2018, the latest edition of JRD News with a Z. And we're going to talk about smart meters, advanced meters, AMI meters, GE non-broadcasting meters, electronic meters. We're metered to death. A lot of people are unhappy. Now, this is a one-man call-in show. I don't have anybody to filter calls, so I can't take telephone calls, but I can take emails. I'm sitting here looking at Spreaker Radio, my studio, and I'm looking at my Outlook for emails, and I'm looking at my document. And if you go to jamesrobertdeal.org/smart-meters, you'll find a link to today's document. Now, that document has a longer name. It's called let me get to the right page here. And I would appreciate it if somebody out there would send me an email right now and say, yep, I can hear you. The email address is james@jamesdeal.com. That's the way you're going to make your comments. So, let's dive right into the issue. There are a lot of people who are very unhappy with what's going on. And there is something we can do about it. Let me refresh that page. I'm an attorney, and I care about these issues. And this is my pro bono work. I'm the president of Coalition Against So-Called Smart Meters. So-called because they're not smart. They're not safe. They're not confidential. So the URL for this is jamesrobertdeal.org/demand that Seattle stop installing and remove so-called advanced meters. That's a pretty long title. We're fortunate that Eloise Kalin started a nonprofit corporation called Hardwired for Safety. I've known Eloise for many years, and she's a great person. She's over in the Port Angeles area, and they have fought off fluoridation after 10 years of being fluoridated. And she also sees the smart meters as an insult to our health, our integrity, our privacy. She started the nonprofit corporation, and then she, for some reason, decided to turn it over to me. She heard that I was championing this cause. So I've taken this up because this is an immediate issue. A lot of people are very unhappy about it. Some people are hypersensitive. I just got an email from Annette who says, can hear you. And thanks. Appreciate that. The whole idea is that There are many reasons why smart meters are a fraud. There's a whole world of profitable frauds out there, and smart meters are just one of them. For example, I'm well known for my work against drinking water fluoridation. This is toxic waste that the fertilizer companies have, and they need to get rid of it, so they put it in the water, and it contains lead and arsenic and cadmium and mercury and radionuclides. But because they're willing to make a profit, they want to make a profit, they put it in our water. And it's the same thing with these smart meters. Megan called in. Megan sent an email and she said, "I'm hearing you." Thank you, Megan. Send in your emails. Tell me where you're calling from. Let me cut to the chase for you. Yes, there is something you can do. If you go to jamesrobertdeal.org/smart meters and you click on that link that takes you to today's program, you're going to see a request for public disclosure. So you can copy the wording for the public disclosure and you can send it to the city of Seattle. And you can say, "Please send me the easement that authorizes you to inflict upon me more than a simple electromechanical meter. Please send me the easement that authorizes you to install and maintain an electrical meter upon my house." It's my contention that the scope of the easement is limited. It does not include so-called smart meters. It includes an all-metal electromechanical totalizing meter which cumulates watt hours. It does not include a meter that includes a socket into which a digital probe can be inserted to log in and, without any login credentials, to log into your meter and every meter on the network. It is a hackable meter. As a broadcasting meter, it pulses up to 190,000 times a second. And the scope of the meter, the scope of the easement, does not include that. We have the Civil Liberties Union, American Civil Liberties Union, which has proposed a bill in the state legislature which would say that any information collected by these smart meters cannot be sold. That's accommodationism. They shouldn't be collecting the information in the first place. The so-called smart meters are defective in many ways. And if you go to jamesrobertdeal.org/smart meters and then follow the link to today's document, what you'll see is that the meters exceed the scope of the easement. Easements are not open-ended. Just because you call these digital electronic meters doesn't mean they're the same thing. They're not within the scope of the easement that we granted or that our predecessors granted. We granted an easement for an all-metal, non-flammable, totalizing meter that accurately measured accurately measures total watt hours consumed. Instead, we have meters that take an average of voltage peaks and amperage peaks and uses an unknown algorithm to convert that into approximately the number of watt hours used. Well, there's strong evidence that the measurement system is completely inaccurate. Some consumers get wildly exorbitant electrical bills, and there's nothing they can do about it because of these inaccurate meters. The meters are also exceeding the easement because they intrude upon our privacy. There's nothing in the electrical easements that we gave that authorized a Wi-Fi to be placed upon the side of our homes. What these meters do is that they receive broadcasts from the house next door, and they broadcast them to your house at a horizontal angle, meaning you're getting radiated not only by your smart meter, but by the smart meter next door. Now, radiation is inversely proportional to the distance, so you're not getting as much. But the thing about radiation, according to the World Health Organization, is that it is dose response dependent. It's one of those things that the harm consistently increases as the radiation increases. Now, you're not going to fall down dead immediately. You're not going to catch cancer immediately. It's cumulative over time. Now, some people are more perceptive. They perhaps have been overdosed in the past with chemicals. Their health is compromised. And not only are they harmed over time, but they are immediately perceive the harm coming. And these are called the electrosensitives. And just like we have to be sensitive to people of different races, backgrounds, we have to be sensitive to the electrosensitive. There are the fluoride hypersensitives. They can't even take a shower in fluoride water without getting sick, without getting rashes. And it's the same way with the hypersensitive. It's my theory that all of us are being harmed by over radiation from smart meters, smartphones, Wi-Fis, cell towers, Bluetooths. But we don't perceive it. We're pretty healthy. We just think, oh, what's that buzzing in my brain? If you perceive it at all. But you're going to perceive it in a few years. Now, cigarette smoking doesn't kill you right away, but it is carcinogenic. And the World Health Organization in 2014 said type 2B carcinogen. That means a possible human carcinogen. Now, if you read my article, you will see that the National, let me Google for that, National, NIH, Control F. Well, the National Institutes of Health did their own study in 2016, and it was more affirmative than the World Health Organization study. And there's mounting evidence that cell phone radiation causes glioma. And then there are the ladies who stick their cell phone in their bra and they have a cancer that exactly follows the impression of the smart meter against their breast. And then there are the people who have glioma, which is a brain cancer, on the left side, where they always hold their smart meter, their smartphone. If you use a smartphone, put it on speakerphone and hold it out at arm's length, or put it on the table. The thing is belching out radiation. And don't do your reading on your cell phone. I'm extremely nearsighted, and so I bring my cell phone, take off my glasses, bring my cell phone up to my face, and for hours I would read the New York Times or the Washington Post or the Wall Street Journal or Activist Post. And I'm realizing that my eyes have been burned. This radio frequency and microwave frequency radiation is harmful to the eyes and can exacerbate eye disease. I think I need a little break here to go get a cup of coffee and to organize my future thoughts on this. If you have questions or comments, send an email to james@jamesdeal.com. You can't call in because I don't have a backup person to take the calls and filter them. And I'm going to play a little song that was written by Mr. J.S. Bach. This is my interpretation of the Minuet in G. You have 47 seconds to go refill your coffee. J.S. Bach, Minuet in G. I almost decided to major in music, but I didn't think I wanted to be a high school band director or choir director. Would have been a nice, interesting life. Being a lawyer and being a real estate broker pays the bills, but it's music that makes me happy. It so happened about 3 months ago that a guy named David Lyons called me. He lives in a 10-unit apartment building. And David and his tenants, David's the manager, Chris Vonovich is the owner, and the tenants are were concerned about having smart meters installed in their basement where they go to wash their clothes. So the plan was to lock the Seattle City Light out, but they found a key in a key box and were able to get in and quickly installed 11 smart meters. 10 for the 10 tenants and 1 extra for Chris, the owner, because he pays for electricity for the common areas. Now Chris is concerned on principle. First of all, he's going to decline, opt out, or do whatever it takes to avoid a smart meter on his personal residence. He's also concerned for his tenants, for their welfare and their happiness. He's also concerned financially. And I detail this in my challenge to the city of Seattle. If you go to jamesrobertdeal.org/smart meters and look for stop installing and remove electronic meters, you'll see the link. And it explains why any landlord would be concerned. 2 of his units are right above the basement. And the residents in those units are going to be more irradiated than others in the building. He may have a difficult time renting those 2 units for the same prices he's been getting. Tenants in his building may send notice and say, Chris, we're moving. We're moving up to Snohomish County. Snohomish PUD is still 3 years away from smart metering its users. So we're moving, or we're moving to South Seattle because this project of installing smart meters is starting in the Wallingford and Ballard and Fremont area. Moving north, I've gotten some emails from people who are telling me that it's coming our way. What can we do? So I've just got an email that says, can't connect to the server at jamesrobertdeal.org. Well, I hope you can hear me. It may be that the connection is maxed out. I'll have to talk to my host about that. And it might come back in, so be patient. Just keep clicking on jamesrobertdeal.org/smart-meters. I hope you can hear my audio. If you can hear my audio, please send me an email. And that's from Richard White. Thank you, Richard, for giving us a heads up on that. So let's talk terminology. The analog meters that we've had for many years are electromechanical. The electricity uses a minute amount of energy to turn the aluminum wheels. These analog meters are all metal with a backlight platform in the back. A backing is a term for it, that doesn't burn easily. These meters don't catch on fire. These meters have a built-in surge protector. It's called a spark gap protector, smart gap surge protector. It's not perfect, but it can handle a lot of amps. When the amps are above a certain amount, the gap is crossed and the current goes to ground. These analog meters are grounded, meaning that there's a way, when you have that third prong on all of your plugs, there's a pathway to ground, so your appliances won't get fried. The problem with smart meters, generally electronic meters, is that there are variations in current. Not just big variations, the little variations can get through if you're using a smart meter and gradually deteriorate your appliances. So analog meters, all metal, don't catch fire, grounded, contain a surge protector. Now let's talk about electronic meters. Electronic meters is a broad term. It includes the so-called advanced meters, or AMI, Advanced Meter Institute meters, which are now being deployed in Seattle. But it also includes the GE digital non-communicating meters that were installed starting around 2000. These are not as bad in the sense that they don't broadcast up to 190,000 times per day, belching out radiation, disclosing your private behavior and electrical usage. But they're not grounded, and the surge protection is inferior. They have what's called a VOR, MOV, mechanical oxide varistor. Metal oxide varistor. And at 300 volts they burn out, they explode, they catch fire. It's a flimsy card, just like what you would see in a computer. It's only good up to 10 volts DC. So the varistor catches fire, the chips catch fire, and it'll pass up to 240 volts into your house. It's going to ruin your appliances, and then the utility company is going to say, we're not liable. We're not liable for anything past the meter. Well, I don't think the law would agree, and I think this is an insurance issue, and that's why I've sent this notice, or will send this notice, to the insurance commissioner, Michael Kreidler. Some insurance companies are getting hip to this, and they are requiring that you have a special endorsement if you want to have a smart meter, or they're declining coverage of damage caused by surges. We're going to take a short break, and I'm going to let you listen to a song that I played, Bach's Well-Tempered Clavier. This goes for 58 seconds, so maybe that gives you time to go fill your coffee. I'm back for more. Any question is a good question. Any comment is a good comment. I've had quite a few emails saying, I hear you. And another one saying we can't connect to the server at jamesrobertdeal.org. So let me open a browser here and see if I can connect to jamesrobertdeal.org / demand that Seattle stop installing and remove so-called advanced meters, with dashes between each word. So yeah, that connection went through. So let me try logging into jamesrobertdeal.org / smart meters. Yep, that worked. If you go to smart meters, jamesrobertdeal.org / meters, you can scroll down to demand that Seattle City Light not commit trespass, not invade privacy, stop installing so-called advanced meters, and remove advanced meters deployed. That's the title. Let me cut to the chase here, because I know a lot of people are frustrated, worried, concerned, starting to get headaches. What can we do? Now, if you look at the document, go down to the bottom, you'll see a request for public disclosure. You can take the header, the introduction, and just add your own public disclosure request. and request a copy of the easement that authorizes the installation of so-called advanced meters. Now, regarding Chris and his 10-unit building, I asked my title company to find me the easement. They couldn't find it. Not only does the easement not include sticking a Wi-Fi on your house that broadcasts and irradiates you and exposes you to being hacked, there's no easement at all. I would also say that if you consent to these smart meters, you may be granting them an easement by default. The city has no authority. Instead of requiring you to opt out, they should be sending you a document which says expansion of easement. We hereby consent not only to have our electricity checked through a meter, but we also consent to having all your electrical behavior be monitored and to be subjected to the possibility of being hacked and subjected to radio microwave frequency radiation. They've got it reversed. So there's lots of work being done on opt-out provisions. I don't think we should have to opt out. I think they should be asking us to opt in. Now, I have had to face this myself. Up here in Snohomish County, the broadcasting meters are 3 years away, but it is the intention of Snohomish County PUD to install so-called broadcasting smart meters. In the meantime, I decided to be patriotic and install a solar roof. So I spent $25,000 putting a solar roof on my roof with all that equipment in the garage, all ready to ramp up. And then I learned that Snohomish PUD has the policy that they're going to remove my analog meter that reports on total usage and replace it with a GE non-broadcasting digital meter, and also to put a non-broadcasting GE digital meter on my production meter. That's the meter that will measure how much electricity my solar panels produce, and thus is subtracted, and I get a credit for all the electricity that I either feed back into the network or don't draw from the network. And it could be thousands of dollars per year. More than enough to pay the $244 a month, which I will have to pay to the credit union to finance this installation. So I went to visit the Snohomish PUD and made a speech and delivered a letter. And if you go to jamesrobertdeal.org/smart meters and scroll down and look for non-broadcasting electronic meters also must go. This is my presentation to the Snohomish PUD. Now, the GE digital non-broadcasting meters are not as bad as the advanced meters, which are broadcasting, but they're pretty bad. They're not grounded. The surge protection is only up to 300 volts. It's a MOV, metal oxide varistor, that's right on the computer board. Computer boards don't belong in meters. Meters have to endure a lot of stress. There are a lot of surges as the electric company is adjusting its voltage, and a computer chip can easily be fried. Just go on YouTube and Google for smart meter fires. And that's what's going to be happening here. This is going to be a big political issue. If you really want to move this issue along, call up your city council person, your state representative, your precinct committee person, and howl about this. And send them a copy of the documents that I've posted. This is going to be a very difficult issue for the new mayor. And I predict that the whole program is going to be canceled. It's got to be canceled. So my role is to, in being one of the board members of the coalition against so-called smart meters, is first of all to understand the scientific issues, and as a lawyer understand the legal issues and connect those together, and then engage, search for a large firm that has experience with class action lawsuits and is environmentally oriented to bring the lawsuit. This lawsuit would not only be against the Seattle City Light, but also against other utility companies in the state of Washington. And it could even be a nationwide Consumer Protection Act lawsuit. So the attorneys are going to have to wait to get paid on the back end. But I think there is a way they're going to be paid, because it is a very convincing Consumer Protection Act case. The Consumer Protection Act and the Federal Trade Commission Act provide for reasonable attorney fees and triple damages. So if you look at the representations made by Landis & Geyer, the company that is providing these so-called advanced meters to the city of Seattle, they praise these smart meters to the heights and make representations that may be inaccurate, and thus convinced our city council 9-0 to vote for these preposterous spying devices that irradiate us, that wear out in 5 to 7 years, whereas our analog meters last 40 years, that measure our electricity inaccurately, that charge us an extra $10 a month just for their constant receiving and transmitting information from house to house. The people who thought up this swindle were so cheap that they were even unwilling to tap into the cell phone network and use that as a mechanism for reporting back to headquarters on total usage. Instead, they created their own cell phone network. And it's a peer-to-peer network. So my house reports to Mario's house next door. Mario's house reports to Richard's house next door. Peer-to-peer. And finally it gets to a station where it's retrieved and reported to Seattle City Light or Landis & Geyer. The whole system is insecure. Every one of these so-called smart meters has a socket in it. And the utility man has an optical probe. And if he sticks it down into the socket, he can read, program not only your meter, but every meter on the network. Also, these meters have an infrared blinking light that you can see if you have night vision goggles. that tells you whether there's activity or not. So a prowler could take a look at your meter and tell whether you're home or not. And these meters report on your every electrical activity. When you turn on and off your lights, when you open and close your refrigerator, when you turn on and off your TV, they have the ability to turn off appliances to shed load. Allegedly, this is to enable the individual to track his usage so that he can avoid using a lot of electricity during peak periods. But that's completely fallacious, because you can only get feedback on your usage the next day. So it doesn't help you in any way to reduce your usage on a minute-by-minute basis. Furthermore, for $129, as described in my document, you can buy software that tells you on a minute-by-minute basis how much electricity you're using. And this software could be used to report to Seattle City Light on what your total monthly usage is. So if City Light really would like to save money by laying off meter readers, the first thing it should do is cancel this defective program. Defective, intrusive, privacy-violating program. And then invite developers to develop a meter that is analog, that is grounded, surge protected, that also has the capability of reporting once a month, only once a month, on total watt hours used. Unlike these smart meters, which use an algorithm to average amperage spikes and voltage spikes and convert it into watt hours used, which can be very inaccurate, and I'll tell you why. Volts surge whenever a motor comes on. There's a surge necessary to get the motor started. Now, newer appliances have step-in motors, so that there's a little motor that gets it started turning, and then a bigger motor that gets it really turning, which reduces the voltage spikes. But it's these spikes that are being measured and averaged, so that's why the bills can be higher. And then the meters use electricity to operate. They use electricity to report to each other, and so they're going to raise your bill. They're going to expose you to microwave radio frequency radiation. They're going to expose you to being hacked. So, I just think they're illegal. Now, Washington law, let me read from a case here. It says, a servient owner, that would be the utility company, is entitled to impose, no. The servient owner is the guy who's imposed upon. Like your neighbor wants to drive across your road. The neighbor is the dominant easement, has the dominant easement, and you have the servient easement. And it's the same way with electrical utility easements. A servient owner, that's you, is entitled to impose reasonable restraints on a right of way to avoid a greater burden on the servient owner's estate than that originally contemplated in the easement grant, so long as such restraints do not unreasonably interfere with the dominant owner's use. What that means is that the utility easement that you gave to Seattle City Light, or which your predecessor gave to Seattle Light, and which runs with the land, was not open-ended. Just because they call a smart meter a meter doesn't mean it's a meter within the scope of the easement originally granted. The easement originally granted was for a safe, all-metal, grounded, surge-protected meter which did not eavesdrop on your privacy. So the meters exceed the scope of the easement. Now let's go to constitutional issues. The Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution says, "The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated," parenthesis, by the federal government. The Constitution created the federal government. All the powers that the federal government has came from the states, and the states enacted these easements, these amendments, saying that the federal government shall not violate the right of the people to be secure in their persons. Then the 14th Amendment came along after the Civil War, and it was interpreted to expand and broaden the Fourth Amendment and apply it to the states. So neither the federal government nor the states, nor any agency of the state, can violate your right to be secure in your person, your house, your papers, and your effects against unreasonable searches and seizures. Then we've got Section 7 of the Washington State Constitution, which is actually apparently more broad. It says, "No person shall be disturbed in his private affairs or his home invaded without authority of law." Now, this is phrased in the passive voice. So it doesn't necessarily simply limit the power of the state. Apparently, it limits the power of persons, corporations, to disturb you in your private affairs, your home, without authorization of law. And that's what these meters do. They monitor your electrical behavior every minute, gather that information up and pulse it back to headquarters, store it up. Now the city of Seattle has said, "Oh, don't worry, we're not going to sell your information." Other cities are doing it. Apparently Amazon and Facebook think there's something they can learn from your electrical data that will help them in their business. And there's nothing in Seattle regulations to prevent Seattle from selling your information. Now, if you opt out, they'll try to give you an advanced non-broadcasting meter. Don't accept that. You want to retain your analog electromechanical meter, because the non-broadcasting advanced meters are the same meters. They just have the broadcasting function turned off. And the broadcasting function can be turned back on remotely from headquarters without any notice to you. And there's no restriction on them selling your personal and private information, not disclosing what they're selling, or compensating you in any way. Okay. Liz says, just sent me an email, "Please send us a link to the show for those who can't be in front of our computers at that time. Thanks so much." So I would suggest that the link is to jamesrobertdeal.org/smart-meters. And from there, you can find both the link to Everett PUD demand and to the Seattle City Light demand. So let me get back to what you can do. First of all, you can send them a public disclosure request. Where's the easement that authorized this? Now, I will be preparing a small claims case. I'll prepare a form that you can use, and you can plug in your own name and your own address. And you can take it down to the small claims court. And I'm going to post this on jamesrobertdeal.org/smart-meters. Now, in small claims court, I think the maximum jurisdictional amount is $5,000, so you should sue for $5,000. And you should sue for the amount of the opt-out, one-time fee, $150 something, the monthly opt-out fee, $15, and you should sue for trespass, damages caused by trespass, damages caused by infringement on your privacy, and no lawyers are allowed in small claims court. So if we do our job right, we're going to have hundreds and hundreds of people filing these small claims cases. If we do our job right, you're going to help me by Facebooking and emailing people and saying, and sending emails to Mayor Durkin and say, we love it that you were elected, but you've got a mess on your hands because the city council before you was swindled, boondoggled, defrauded, voted 9-0 to install these defective, privacy violating, expensive, utility bill increasing meters. You know, one of the questions that I have to ask is, how is it that 9-0 the city council, despite the efforts of the members of SUMA and the personal testimony of Bill, who came all the way from Wisconsin to testify, and many others who testified on the scientific and privacy aspects of this, could be manipulated by some salesman from some company into buying this white elephant, defective metering system that'll raise your rates, raise the total amount of electricity consumed, because these meters are going to be busy constantly receiving and broadcasting and relaying your digital information. Hackers who get in will know, anybody who's monitoring will know when you turn off the lights at night and when you turn on your vibrator. A lot can be gleaned from monitoring your electrical behavior. And these meters are not very secure. And more smart appliances are going to come out. And all of these smart appliances are going to have little circuit boards in them and little computers. And they'll all have an IP address. And they can all be hacked. And who is going to update the software when holes in security are found? Is your refrigerator going to get an SSL certificate? We are not Luddites. We're not against improving technology just to preserve the jobs of some meter readers. We're opposed to these electronic meters for all the reasons that I've stated. And the fact that meter readers will be put out of work is a shame too. And we're in favor of everybody making a living wage. Now, meter readers could do more than just read meters. They can also check for code violations. They can look for fire hazards around the house. Has the person mowed the grass? Does that create a vermin problem? They could also get trained as first responders. You can do a lot more with meter readers than just reading meters. And the $15 per month charge that is going to be imposed on people who opt out is far in excess of the real cost of coming by and reading a meter. If there's anybody out there who knows how many meters a meter reader can read in a day, then we can figure out what the daily salary is for a meter reader. We can figure out what the real cost is for reading a meter. And if that charge of $15 a month is in excess of the real cost of a meter reader reading the meter, then it becomes a penalty, not a verifiable cost. And utility companies have to justify all of their costs. I think it's time for a song. I'll play you a song I wrote during my last campaign. I run every year for one office or another, and the most I've ever gotten is 15% of the votes in city council elections. I ran for lieutenant governor. I ran for governor in 2016. I've run for Seattle, for Everett City Council, for Snohomish County executive twice. And why do I do it? Because I want to raise these issues. There's more than one way to win. You can win without actually winning the most votes. If you force your opponents to address these issues and you get people aware of these issues, then eventually your ideas will prevail. So that's my method. That's my hobby. That's my pro bono work. That's my calling in life. I enjoy doing it. I wouldn't respect myself if I didn't take up this cause. So this is a song I wrote. I've been working on it for several years. I hope you enjoy it. This lasts for 7 minutes and 36 seconds. Gives you plenty of time to take a break. I'll be back in 7 minutes and 30 seconds. You should turn up your volume because it's recorded at a low level.
Someday the Lord will come, that's what the good book has said, and he'll be punishing the wicked and rewarding the good. And most of those remaining will be wishing they was dead, condemned 'cause they failed just never understood. There was a wise man down here, he was a-teaching his truth. Matthew wrote his words down, unfortunately they were later burned. Mark, who spoke a different language, but doing the best he could. Mark, who never even met him, wrote again third-hand. And so it ain't no surprise, and so it ain't no surprise, and so it ain't no great big surprise. He wrote it down half wrong. You sent us other prophets, you sent us messiahs and priestesses. Why, the one who came last year, she won the Nobel Prize for Peace. But they all are speaking esoteric languages that most of us don't understand. They are specialists too narrow to teach the overview. And so it ain't no surprise, and so it ain't no surprise, so it ain't no great big surprise. We still don't understand. But there be some of us that's trying to do your will, and so we think we have some right to ask one question still. Lord, 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 with all due respect, Lord, Lord, if it was all so important that we understand, Lord, if it was all so important, why didn't you make it clear? And so it ain't no surprise, and so it ain't no surprise, and so it ain't no great big surprise. We still don't understand. But there be some of us that's trying to do your will, and so we would presume to make one final request. Lord, 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 with all due respect, Lord, Lord, if it is all so important that we understand, Lord, even at this late date in time, please could you make it clear? So it ain't no surprise, and so it ain't no surprise, and so it ain't no great big surprise. We're still trying to understand. James Robert Deal, February the 17th, 2017.
Welcome back. So there are a few more points I should cover before we wrap up, and that is that our position should be that instead of spending $100 million issuing bonds to put in this preposterous system, should spend that $100 million to deliver fiber optic to the entire Seattle City Light service area. And then, if you want to have meters that measure usage, they should be once a month, totalizing analog meters that have some sort of electronic connection so that they can total your usage and send it in. And we should also stand opposed to the proliferation and the growth of the so-called Internet of Things. This is another profitable fraud. There are many profitable frauds out there. Monsanto Roundup is a profitable fraud. Poisons people, poisons fish, kills the salmon, but it kills weeds. Now, they do have robots that can dig up weeds, so why do we need Roundup? I don't think so. War materials is another profitable fraud. Fluoridation is a profitable fraud. Over-vaccination with vaccines that are not double-blind tested is a profitable fraud. There are vaccines that are double-blind tested for safety. Funny thing, they're not on the CDC approved list. You know why? They were invented by communist homeopaths in Cuba. And they really work. For example, the vaccine against leptospirosis. It's taken orally. It can be taken whenever there's a hurricane coming. There's going to be leptospirosis. And it works. Let me say something also about the proliferation of Wi-Fi. Schools. Every schoolroom has a Wi-Fi broadcaster. And pity the poor student who sits right next to that broadcaster. And pity all of those students that are subjected to it, because the effect is cumulative over time. And then we get home and we have a Wi-Fi router. And we get to work and there's a Wi-Fi router broadcasting, belching out these microwave radiation band waves. Cumulative harm. My argument is that we should be hardwired for safety whenever possible. When you get home, forward your cell phone to your landline. Then turn off your cell phone. If you want to surf, if you want to do gaming, do it on a hardwired computer. Now, there are workarounds for connecting your cell phone to an Ethernet cable. But it's not easy. You can Google on YouTube for connect my iPhone to Ethernet. Connect my Android to Ethernet. And you got to buy some equipment. And of course it's not going to work with an iPhone 10 because it doesn't have any plugs at all. What are these people thinking at the iPhone company? Everything's going to be wireless. So we should go wired as much as possible. We should have a Seattle Seattle City Light should take on the project of delivering fiber optic to the whole city. Now Mount Vernon has done it. Chattanooga, Tennessee done it. A lot of other cities did it. Mount Vernon has a gig up and a gig down for $70 a month. Can you imagine the speed? And so companies are moving up there, especially those that move large amounts of data. Now you can buy a gig up and a gig down in Seattle, but it's going to cost you a lot of money. I have 100 megs up and 100 megs down through Frontier. And we spend about $200 a month for all of our Frontier services, including telephone. It's fast enough for what I do. But there should be a gizmo that would allow you, when you get home, to plug your cell phone, to put it on airplane mode, plug it in, and connect to the internet and receive both telephone calls and surf the internet through a hardwired connection, so that you're not exposing yourself to any radio wave, microwave radiation. That's something we should push for. Hardwired. And then we should bear in mind those who are electrosensitive. I believe that excessive radio frequency, microwave frequency, electromagnetic radiation is harmful to all on a cumulative basis. Some people are strong and healthy. They haven't been hypersensitized in the past by chemical overdoses, by other overdoses, and so they kind of pass off the insult. They don't perceive it. But then the hypersensitives, the electrosensitives, do perceive it, and they get the headaches, and they're unhappy. They get rashes. It affects them. I've got people calling me saying, James, I want to sell my condo because I can opt out, but my neighbors refuse to spend the money to opt out. So would you please help me sell my condo so I can move out to Snohomish County and find me a house that has an analog meter? By the way, I should interject a commercial message here and say that I'm not taking any money from your contributions. The contributions are going to be used to build up the organization, pay costs out of pocket, and to recruit attorneys who have the facilities, the support staff, to conduct a class action environmental lawsuit against this. That's if the city of Seattle doesn't back down. I think they'll back down. I'm really optimistic about it. So any payment I receive is going to come at the end, unless the board decides that some interim payment is justifiable, and I will leave that up to the board. Although costs, like I need to really buy a good $650 meter. So donations to Coalition Against So-Called Advanced Meters are tax deductible, and the address is P.O. Box 2276, Linwood, Washington 98037. I have not set up a PayPal link to that, but it will be coming, and you will see it on jamesrobertdeal.org/smart meters. I do this for my own personal satisfaction because of my conflict with Snohomish PUD, and because I see it as an outrage. So let's see if there's any more emails here from listeners. This person says, sorry, I'm not sure which is the best email address for you to use. James@jamesdeal.com. Deal as in, let's make a deal. A good deal more for a good deal less. Deal or no deal. I rarely play cards, but when I do, I deal. When I was proposing to my wife, we talked about having kids. I got down on one knee and I said, let's make a deal. She said, let's make two. Little humor is better than none. He says, James, I'm an electrical contractor with 45 years of experience in Seattle Light jurisdiction. Hence, I know a lot of City Light employees, both retired and presently working at Seattle City Light. I would like to help you get needed details via my contacts. And this is from Richard. He gave me his phone number and his email address. Thank you, Richard. I don't see any more questions. And frankly, I'm a little bit tired. We've been going for an hour and 21 minutes. I worked till 5 o'clock this morning, getting this paper ready for you folks. And then I had to sit an open house. By the way, I'm not taking any money out of this project, but you can help me. And this is crass advertising by listing or selling through me as a real estate broker. I work the King County, Snohomish area, and I also co-broker, meaning I work with other brokers. So if a broker has a deal that is non-standard, they need to refer the client to an attorney. Refer them to me instead. I will work out a flat fee. I'll get paid at closing. If it doesn't get closed, I don't get paid. It's called co-brokering. I'll do it for like 0.5% or for a fixed dollar amount that we agree upon. That way the broker feels better, the client feels better, they get all their questions answered. I follow the deal all the way through closing. My website is washingtonattorneybroker.com, and I invite you to visit that and pass the word. Help James to get more listings. Help James to get more buyer customers, because the more customers I get, the more time and money I can put into this smart meter effort. Let's see if there's any more emails here. Not so. We're going to go out on a song. Let's see. Follow your truth wherever it leads you, and do not fear the truth you may find. I was sitting by her side when my mother died at 90. Dying won't be so bad, she said. In heaven, I can smoke if I want. Follow your truth wherever it leads you, and do not fear the truth you may find. Here it goes. Check jamesrobertdeal.org/smart-meters for upcoming programs.
Follow your truth, she would say, wherever truth you may find. I hope there is a God above. I pray there is no devil. I hope there is a heaven. I pray there is no hell. Some may be deserving of punishment infernal. May they be punished no more and no less. Some may be deserving of retirement in heaven. If I am so lucky, my hope is to play the big pipe organ. To play the big pipe organ. Greenland will melt, Antarctica too. Oceans will rise, our cities will be undersea attractions. A comet will fall into Atlantic, tsunami cross Pacific, will overtop the coastal nukes. Plutonium catch fire and burn. Plutonium catch fire and burn. Once alive, those nukes will burn for 1,000 years. We will live underground, come out only in hazmat. The sun in solar maximum will send us a mass ejection. Electronics will be toasted and we will return to the 1800s. Life is a tragedy, said an ancient sage. A tragedy to those who feel, but a comedy to those who think. So I've thought, and I've thought about it often, about taking my own life. The thing that has kept me going is knowing I'll be dead soon enough. I was sitting by her side when my mother died at 90. Dying won't be so bad, she said. In heaven I can smoke if I want. Follow your truth, she would say, wherever it leads you, and do not fear the truth you may find. I hope there is a God God above, I pray there is no devil. I hope there is a heaven, I pray there is no hell. I pray there is no hell. Unlikely, but such things have happened before. Unlikely things which have happened before will eventually happen again. People often ask me why my verses seldom rhyme. I never claim to be a poet, I'm only a drummer boy. I'm only a drummer boy. You say it's unlikely, but such things have happened before. Unlikely things which have happened before will eventually happen again. People often ask me why my verses rarely rhyme. I never claim to be a poet, I'm only a drummer boy. I'm only a drummer boy.
Today's broadcast will be recorded, will be posted on jamesrobertdeal.org/smart-meters in about a half hour. Follow your truth, she would say, wherever it leads you, and do not fear the truth you may find. I hope there is a God above. I pray there is no devil. I hope there is a
a heaven. I pray there is no hell. Some may be deserving of punishment infernal. May they be punished no more and no less. Some may be deserving of retirement in heaven. If I am so lucky, my hope is to play the big pipe organ. To play the big pipe organ. Greenland will melt, Antarctica too. Oceans will rise, our cities will be undersea attractions. A comet will fall into Atlantic, tsunami cross Pacific, will overtop the coastal nukes. Plutonium catch fire and burn. Plutonium catch fire and burn. Once alight, those nukes will burn for 1,000 years. We will live underground, come out only in hazmat. The sun in solar maximum will send us a mass ejection. Electronics will be toasted and we will return to the 1800s. Life is a tragedy, said an ancient sage. A tragedy to those who feel, but a comedy to those who think. So I thought, and I thought about it often, about taking my own life. The thing that has kept me going is knowing I'll be dead soon enough. I was sitting by her side when my mother died at 90. Dying won't be so bad, she said. In heaven I can smoke if I want. Follow your truth, she would say, wherever it leads you. And do not fear the truth you may find. I hope there is a God above. I pray there is no devil. I hope there is a heaven. I pray there is no hell. I pray there is no hell. but such things have happened before. Unlikely things which have happened before will eventually happen again. People often ask me why my verses seldom rhyme. I never claim to be a poet, I'm only a drummer born. I'm only a drummer boy. You say it's unlikely, but such things have happened before. Unlikely things which have happened before will eventually happen again. People often ask me why my verses rarely rhyme. I never claim to be a poet, I'm only a drummer boy. I'm only a drummer boy. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven above. Give us this day our daily bread, as we share with those in need. Forgive us our wrongs as we forgive others wrongs, and may we not be tested, but if we are, may we survive the test. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Amen.
Give us this day our daily bread, as we share with those in need. Forgive us our wrongs as we forgive others' wrongs. And may we not be tested, but if we are, may we survive the test. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Amen.
James Robert Deal, February 28, 2017.